Hi, Gina. We've got 2 more volunteers, possibly. All right.
Wonderful.
And a regular hand truck. So that I could even roll. Probably not load it, but.
You'd be surprised how easy it makes it.
Oh, I do know how easy it makes it. I used to have to set up furniture in a showroom to sell. And I remember it well. You know, back when the Swedish furniture first came out,
Yeah.
I was like 20. So that was my job, to put it all together, put it in the, oh golly, it was, I've had many kinds of jobs. So, okay. Thank you for coming. Do I know everybody's name? Do y'all know everybody's name? Does everybody know each other's name?
I forgot your name.
Mason.
Mason.
That's right.
And Sharon.
I'm Iris.
Iris and Roy and Debbie, Bob, Jack, and Gina and Ann and Jennifer.
Hi, Venerable Tendron.
Hello.
Zoom user.
So, okay. I forgot to do that Sunday. I'll have to remember next Sunday. All right.
Mr. and Miss.
So now y'all are all kind of regulars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
So the description of this class was designed for new people.
What?
This description of this class, when I read what it said I was supposed to do, it was really designed for relatively new people. So we can ignore that.
Yeah, because we went through 4 months of intensive work with all the.
I know, I don't understand it. Don't ask me. I just show up with and told, they tell us what to teach. I don't, So, so we may have to approach it differently. What I've prepared for tonight probably doesn't work. So, we'll see how it goes. But first, let's set a motivation. And you want to hear what I said as a motivation for beginners? We'll say the prayers in a minute. We'll do it, some meditation first. But first, we want a motivation for the course. So this is one of those things that you try to do at the beginning of any new action. So now just take a moment to imagine you're surrounded by all the people in your life, all your friends, all your loved ones, all of those you have positive, constructive relationships with. Partners, children, relatives, dear friends, colleagues. And then imagine all the people you have difficulty with. People you don't like, people who don't like you, people you find irritating, people you find difficult. Whoever that you feel poses a problem for you, imagine them also surrounding you. And then imagine all the strangers. I always like to think of, the pictures of Mecca during the pilgrimage to Mecca and all circumambulating. And it's just this huge mass of people, none of whom I know. Then all the people you run into at the supermarket that you don't know, you don't say hello to, the bank, wherever you run errands, everywhere. All the people you pass in traffic. And mostly we treat them politely, but indifferently. Now, imagine that all these people in your life, the friends, enemies, and strangers, are surrounding you. They're all doing this course with you, studying, reflecting, and meditating with you. And now reflect on what you bring to the course. What do you want to do? What are your aspirations? What do you want to take away with you? What are your goals? Consider how the fulfillment of these goals might affect you. Now expand out your aspirations to not only include what you want for yourself, but also to benefit all those people of your life surrounding you. And trying to think beyond your own desires, your wishes, opening out to others. And make a strong determination to reap the benefits of this course, to achieve your goals for yourself and for all the people of your life. Now, if you'll share the seven limb prayer.
Bless you.
Is that around?
Yeah, it's on the next page. Reverently, I prostrate with my body, speech, and mind, during the clouds of every type of offering, actual and imagined. I declare all negative actions accumulated since beginning this time, and rejoice in the merit of all holy and ordinary beings. And can you mute yourself? Thank you. Please remain until the end of cyclic existence and turn the wheel of Dharma for living beings. I dedicate my own merits and those of all others to the great enlightenment. And then page 98. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. Hi, Tom. Hi, Maggie. Hi, Deepa.
Hi.
Oh, okay. All right. So what do you want out of this course? What would you like to be working on? Did any of y'all see the description of the course?
No.
Okay, yeah. Do. Okay. Have you got me as co-host?
Yes.
Okay.
I think it's good with the intentions that you set and the meditation to take a step back from our practice, to reevaluate the foundations that we've created and shared together.
Okay, doke. Thanks, Tina. Okay, this is what I prepared for. So what I'd love to hear from you is how do you want, what is it that you're looking for? Yeah, Bob.
You know, Colden does a lot of refreshing teaching as he's teaching. He goes over the things he's already taught.
Yes, we all
So-
repeat ourselves.
So, I'm kind of comfortable with what you're proposing.
Okay,
It would be interesting to hear what you have to say regarding the approach to a Buddhist path.
yeah, okay. Yeah, anybody want anything in addition? How about you, Mason?
I mean, I come here to learn and to be exposed to different perspectives, and I really liked last time the part where we were able to ask questions and
Yeah.
stuff. So that for me was helpful.
Yeah, you can always ask questions. Roy?
How to transform being part of my life.
The daily life, how to make it, yeah.
Being part of it.
Yeah, okay. Iris?
Fairly new.
Okay.
So I'm happy with it, but
Okay.
but a lot of times people ask more advanced questions, so that makes it more depth and more
Yeah.
interesting to people that are, been around the block for a while with.
Yeah, we'll have a mixture.
Yeah.
I
so-
try,
right.
yeah, okay. Debbie?
Yeah, like a little bit of an emphasis on daily application of how to stop falling into delusions during the day and
Yeah,
like just when you leave the teaching and then just go back to your routine to.
oh, it's amazing how fast that happens. You know, like walking to your car in the parking lot, it can happen, yeah.
For me, I'm thinking the habitual thoughts that just arise like this, I want to stop that because a lot of that turns out to be a negative interpretation of something because that's where I go.
You know, that's what we sentient beings do. So, Tal, do you have any suggestions?
I'm sorry about the background noise.
Doesn't matter.
But daily integration,
Okay,
practice and thought patterns. I guess what everybody else is saying. That's what's the most challenging.
okay. Maggie, Deepa, Jennifer?
My thoughts resonate exactly with what Tal, Roy, and Debbie said. Daily
Okay,
application.
okay. Thanks. Anne? You're muted at this moment.
I would love to dive into that because it's important to get different perspectives, practices, like when we go back to ordinary life after the teaching.
Because it's all practice. The whole purpose, never forget that the whole purpose of meditation, of the teachings, is to subdue our body, speech, and mind. So that's all about our activities with others. It has nothing to do with how long you can sit quietly in a room by yourself. That's a conducive condition for training our mind, but it's not the point. So it's bringing able to integrate the Dharma into your daily life all through the day is the entire point.
I had one more thing.
Yeah.
I thought of. I personally have a tendency to avoid hard things. So, instead of seeing life through, the perspective of I'm clinging on to the good parts and then I'm avoiding all the hard parts. And like sometimes I just lay in bed and just like wait for the bad to be over, whatever state I'm in. But I want to be able to actually
Work with it.
actively do things and be intentional and have control over my state of mind rather than just letting it myself be consumed by it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's something we all want to have happen. Yeah. Yes, Bob.
I'm a big fan of application of daily.
Yeah.
So,
We're
going down.
gonna go with that. Okay. Okay, we're all on the same page. All right. So there's some things that support our Dharma practice. One is that we need to recognize, have a realization of at some point in the future of what our great potential is. I mean, the Buddhist teachings say that we can all become enlightened. We can all get rid of all our disturbing states of mind. We can perfect all our positive states of mind. We are all capable of that. We all have the capacity for that. And the reason I bring that up is there are 3 types of laziness that get in our way. One of which is the laziness of discouragement, where we think we can't do it. And so we need to counter that thought. When we think we can't do it, we need, even in small ways, like I can't do that yet. Never stop with I can't do it. Add yet to the end of that sentence. Anything you can do to shift your belief that it's too hard. Now it is hard, but it's not too hard. You actually have the capacity to do it. How much progress you make varies. And some things you kind of soar through it. Other things, not so much. I'm still an impatient person. I've been working on it for a very long time, but I'm not as angry of a person. So that's where my progress has been, is that I'm not, particularly an angry person anymore. And I used to be very angry. I still have a long way to go on the impatience scale. So we need to understand what our potential is. And the reason why we have such potential is because of the power of the mind. We need to understand how powerful our minds are. Awareness is this ability to perceive objects and reflect them. I mean, not objects necessarily like form objects, just whatever. Concepts, perceptions, deep realizations. The mind can reflect whatever we put in it. It's completely changeable. It's simply that if we quit putting garbage in, we'll be just reflecting non-garbage. So we need to really come up with reasons that we know this is true. We look at our own experience, the things in our lives that we have changed, the habits that we have changed. Think about what you were like as a teenager, what you were like, you just, you go from there and you realize, oh, well, look, I have proof that I can change habits. Think about how you used to view certain things that you don't view that way at all anymore. We really want to get this, that the power of our minds is kind of infinite. It can get worse and worse and worse and worse, or it can get better, 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 and better. Mostly we're a mixed bag. Why does this occur? Why is this possible? What is the nature of the mind? What's its conventional nature?
Illusion. Ignorance. Not clear and knowing.
Clear and knowing is the nature of mind.
Well, you were going for, you said conventional.
Yeah. Conventionally, it's clear and knowing.
But that was ultimate.
No, ultimately it's empty. It's polluted. Make no mistake. We have very polluted minds. But if we can try to remember that, just like, back in the 70s, when our rivers were really a mess, and Nixon, of all people, signed the Clean Water and Air Act, and they changed. They were able to remove the pollution out of a lot of these rivers.
And the Great Lakes.
And the Great Lakes, absolutely. I mean, really made a difference. It wasn't like, just a small change. It was a huge change. That's about getting rid of the pollution. We can do that with our minds. Our disturbing states of mind are pollution. And we can change that. Because the nature of mind is clear and knowing. Our pollution doesn't harm it. It doesn't break it. So if we work on developing habits that are beneficial, we start to clean up that pollution. And like I said, if you look at your experience in this life, you will see how many ways you've changed your mind for the better over your life. The way children change. Like I said, like the way I'm really lucky my parents didn't take me in the backyard and shoot me when I was a teenager. Like how obnoxious, it's just like unbelievable. I'm glad they didn't. So, but the point is, this is evidence that we can take charge of our minds because we've done it before. The hard work here is we want to become habituated to these new habits so the old habits quit rising often. This is the problem. Like you said, we leave the teachings and then blah, blah, just all back. Blah. That's because it hadn't gone away yet. This is the importance of setting a motivation, an intention, and remembering it. So mindfulness is not just about paying attention, it's about remembering the point. So the most, so like in the beginning of the day, say you set an intention that I would like to smile at more people through this day. In order to succeed at that, what do you have to do?
Smile at more people.
Smile at more people. And remember, that was the intention you set. Otherwise, at the end of the day, you can say, oh, well, the first 15 minutes, I was pretty good at smiling the people driving the cars past me, whatever, and then you forget. That's the opposite of mindfulness. So setting an intention and then repeating that through the day, whether you have to set a reminder on your phone, set a reminder. It doesn't matter if you have to be reminded. Thank good, we have the karma to reward in an age where we have tools right at our fingertips to help us with that. So another thing we need to do is when the laziness of discouragement comes up, when we sit there and we go, oh, look at me. I just frowned at that person. I probably growled at that person. He just cut me off in traffic, blah, blah, blah. What do you have to do then?
Well, be compassionate with yourself.
Yes, compassion is really good. Why?
If you berate yourself, you'll never clear that up to get back to your intention.
Well, and if you berate yourself, now what are you doing?
Second arrow.
Second arrow, yes. So you know the story
Oh,
of the,
second arrow, you said?
yep.
Oh.
You know, you get shot with the arrow and then your mind comes up with all sorts of stories about that. So you shoot yourself again. Like bad enough that you're suffering from the first arrow. Why do you want to attack yourself and create suffering on top of it? Also, do we want to practice the mind that berates? That's a disturbing emotion. That's a worldly concern. Why do you think we berate ourselves? What do you think? What are some underlying states of mind that could be driving that?
Not kind enough, or not smart enough, or
What's that about? Not kind enough, not smart enough.
Anger.
At what?
So, internal.
Okay, but what's that about?
Perfection.
What's that about?
Grasping of the self.
Well, yes, it's grasping the self, but what kind of self? Yes.
When you berate yourself because that's the conditioning that you're,
Yeah, that's why we do it. But what's the emotion underneath it? What is the worldly concern that's underneath that?
well, in the one that I'm describing, I would say the emotion is sadness.
It's
No.
also self, it's me.
Self-cherish.
Not trust.
How about
Just
reputation? Maybe not as a child, but now. You're an adult now.
Talking about this one. Sorry.
Yeah, let's get up to date. We're past the child.
Okay.
But so this is what drives us. Part of what's there, besides the fact that maybe our parents treated us that way, spoke to us harshly, whatever. Children talk to each other that way. Siblings certainly do, all this kind of stuff. But underneath that, there's something we're grasping onto, and that's our reputation. I'm stupid. That's a fear of having a bad reputation. It's one of the worldly concerns. We don't like criticism. We don't want to deserve criticism. We want our reputation to be smart, good, whatever it is, talented. Yeah.
Is that reputation? Is that about how you see yourself, your reputation, not necessarily how other people are judging you?
Well, what is other people's judging you? When you think that someone else is judging you, where does that come from?
You created.
You created.
Yes.
It's all your point of view. So we need to, like, the reality is we view everything from our perspective and we project all kinds of things. Well, if anybody knows that I did that, they're just going to think I'm so stupid, and that we don't like. And why? Because we grab at our self-image.
I'm still really happy that there was no internet when I was growing up.
Oh yeah, me too. Because I think it's harder right now. Because there's more voices you're listening to. And we're misinterpreting those voices too. It's like we excel at misinformation. And we haven't developed that inner wisdom that knows the best judge of ourselves is us. We know what's going on in our minds if we look. And that's the most, we need to value our own appraisal. And we need to check up if we are exaggerating our negative qualities and our positive qualities, because that doesn't help. Because they're not true. Exaggerations are lies. And we know this aspect of the power of mind. We know what self-rejection does to our minds and our behaviors. That's the power of mind. It matters how we take care of our minds. And if we want to get along with others in the world, if we want to be able to deal with challenges, because there are always challenges, we need to give ourselves a good starting point that has some trust for ourselves. You know, that I can handle this, I can do this. I don't know what to do. Well, I bet I can find out. You know, we have lots of abilities. And when we study the teachings, that gives us even more access to the direction we might want to point in with our minds. So one of the things when we talk about how do you listen to the Dharma, one is with an open mind. You try not to come with prejudgment, like you already know. What is that the equivalent of?
Pride, ego.
Yeah, these are the three pots. You don't want to be any of the three pots. You don't want to be an upside down pot, which means nothing goes in because you think you already know it. So that's not helpful. What else do you not want to be?
Correct.
Correct, a leaky pot.
I feel like I'm that.
I'm a leaky pot too. We all have that issue, but we want to try. And what can help us not be such a leaky pot?
Be more mindful.
Being more mindful, listening. Sometimes we're not really listening.
Distracted.
Yeah. And we're already thinking mostly what we're distracted by is the story we're making up in our heads.
Response to what we're here.
Oh, whatever.
Yeah.
You might not even be listening to what's going on. You're just making up a story in your head all the time. I mean, this is what we do, so we hear this much. So we want to really try to listen. So we don't want to be a leaky pot where we hear all of it and it just goes, like you said, walk out the room and bleh, it's all gone, And of course, it's not all gone. What hasn't happened is implementing it. The other kind of pot you don't want to be is a polluted pot, which is why you want to listen with an open mind. You want to hear the teachings. You need to listen, make sure you know what they are. So you ask questions if you didn't hear it right, or if you don't understand something in something you read, you try to find out more about it so that you feel like you know what it's saying. Whether you agree with it or not, it's not the point. Just do you know what the teachings are? Then you want to examine the teachings, test it against your own experience, and then you want to go, am I accurate in my own experience? Am I telling the truth to myself? Because this is where, if you have the habit of self-denigration, you got to check up. Is that really true? Always ask yourself, is it really true? When you have a thought of any kind of judgment of yourself or others, Thich Nhat Hanh used to say, are you sure? We want to be sure, and our fears, our 8 worldly concern type fears, play a part in our judgments, What are our 8 worldly concerns? I assume y'all looked at that recently, maybe.
Yeah, he was doing it when he talked about it a lot when he did the low shock.
I bet, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I
did
thought
the
you
8
said it.
verses and then
Right. So what are they?
gain and loss.
Gain and loss, so that's 2.
Praise and blame.
Praise and blame.
Pain and pleasure. Or yeah.
Yep. Pain and pleasure.
Reputation.
Disrepute. So it's kind of interesting that there are actually 4 that have to do
Yeah.
with, praise and criticism, fame and disrepute. They're almost, they're very similar things. So it's not just on the small scale. We want to hear pleasing words about ourselves. We want to be praised. We also wouldn't mind it being elevated to the point of fame. know, and then, we don't want criticism, and we certainly don't want to be known for something wrong.
So 4 of them were attachments and 4 of them aversion.
Oh, yeah, that's why they're pairs. Yeah. That's what we're attached and averse to. We want all the good stuff and we don't want any of the bad stuff. How's that going? Anybody succeeding getting all the good stuff and none of the bad stuff? How can we change, because the praise and criticism and fame and infamy are the easiest to work on. They're hardest to let go. Our grasping at pride is the Buddha said is the last thing we can let go of. But working with them can be a little easier than our, being able to deal with loss, for example.
Listening is already like seeing like, yeah, I don't know everything, and somebody else will get more credit for their points, or like it could bring up praise and
it's really, this is where, is it true? Like when you think to yourself, I was the stupidest person in that room, is that true? A, how could you possibly know? So right there, your basis is a guess. Okay, so you want to kind of recognize that you don't know that. Can there always be someone who doesn't do something as well as you do? You can think children. You can use a child as an example. That child can't drive as well as I do. I mean, if you have to practice this because you're not used to thinking in this way, now, are there always people who do something better than you? I mean, that's the reality, isn't it? They might not find one in the room, but in general, we are on this continuum. I remember a friend of mine wrote me from college and said, wow, he went to a good school, in, high school, all that stuff. He says, but now I'm in college and everybody here is smart. It felt like, oh, very humbling. Just sort of the shocker. Then you have to ask yourself, what difference does it make? Yeah, but that's a nice thought. So if pride's not your issue, then don't worry about it. But if pride is your issue, you want to really look at, why do you care if there are people who can do this better than you can, or people who can do this worse than you can? What are you holding on to there?
I feel like they'll be liked more than me.
Okay, so that's good to know about yourself. You use that as a measure of whether you're likable or not. Now then you have to go, okay, what does my experience tell me? How are my friends? Do I judge my friends that way? Do I only like people who are, smarter than me or maybe dumber than me? Is that how I make judgments about my friends? Or do I just know that they're good at some things and not good at other things? So this is, again, you want to use your experience to investigate the teachings. And then you want to say, am I making myself suffer by the way I'm judging? Is my thought process actually making me suffer? Worrying about whether people are going to like me or not. What's an easy answer to whether people are going to like you? Do you have any friends?
Not many anymore.
Yeah, I know. They all died.
I thought one of them ghosted me. And I was worried. I mean, I was like anxious about it, but then I found out that he just passed away.
Yeah. Hey, what do you do? They do that. But not taking it to the extreme.
Mhm.
Not that they died.
The people who we like today, we may not like tomorrow. A lot of marriage is an example that.
Yeah.
A lot of the
What,
teaching
six
is,
weeks between madly in love and wanting to divorce? Yep.
you know, you were perfect and then, you know, things aren't perfect, but that's all comes back to impermanence.
So you have to ask yes, it's impermanent, but we want to go even further because most of us aren't there yet. We intellectually get that it's all impermanent. They die and and we have friends. Some of our friends today weren't our friends before, and some of them will lose in the future, blah, blah, blah. Well, we need to understand that we're still holding our value up to what we think are other people's opinions. We need to develop our own sense of worth. The Buddha said, you can become a Buddha. You have a lot of value.
So perfection is attainable.
Perfection is a what?
Attainable.
In that way, yes. But very specifically, in conventional reality, is anybody going to fall into that category? Did Shakyamuni Buddha get sick and pass away?
Yeah, and he had people that didn't like him.
Oh, yes, he had people who didn't like him. The Dalai Lama has people who don't like him. You know, all kinds of people that we might really admire. A lot of people don't like them. You know, I mean, that's the way it is for everybody. So if we rely on other people, and in general, relying on our idea of what other people think, that's not a very reliable source. You know. We need to also look at our view what are some of our obstacles to practicing the Dharma? One is the faults of the listener. If you're an upside down pot or a leaky pot or a polluted pot, you know, whatever teachings you receive, you're twisting in some way. Either you decide you already know and you don't need to learn anything else, so it just rolls off you, you know, or you think that, you know, that you do know, and then it all leaks out. Or you mix the Dharma with your own opinions and get it and pollute it. And of course, we all do that because we all are seeing everything through our own perspective. And right now, our perspective is contaminated. And what is it contaminated with?
Negativity.
Yeah, our delusions. Yeah. What are our delusions?
Things exist independently.
That's one,
That I don't see things as they really are.
right? That's another. They're sort of the same. What do we think will make us happy?
For worldly concerns.
Which is known as, in shorthand, getting what we want. Not getting what we don't want. The aversion side of attachment. We're very attached to not getting what we don't want. So we sleep late when we just I don't want to have to do this kind of day, you know? So we need to look at our experience. What was the first noble truth?
There is suffering.
The truth of suffering. So what does that mean? Not today, Only tomorrow?
Samsara is suffering.
Samsara, cyclic existence, existence itself is the nature of suffering in samsara. Buddhas are not subject to the cycle of death and rebirth. So they don't have the kind of sufferings we have. The suffering of loss, the sufferings of not getting what you want, the sufferings of illness, old age. Did they ever have it? Yes, that's how they overcame their aversion or their expectation that this is the path to happiness. You know, they overcame, realized that isn't it. Happiness is not getting what you want. Getting what you want can be a conducive condition to your mind, but it isn't happiness. And we have to really think about that. We need to think about all the times we did something that we were sure would change things, and then didn't. You know, whether it's success in a job, or success in your pocketbook, or success in, gathering beautiful things, or success in being friends with that person, not being friends with that person.
But I have trouble with this
I know you do.
because all those little things that bring me temporary pleasure
Yep.
adds to a more pleasurable life, day or life, or however you wanna say
Guess
it.
what if you weren't depending on that and you could still have a happy life? What if you didn't need that?
Well, if I didn't need that, I would have been, I'm enlightened already. Because I'm living in this conventional.
Yeah, and you can keep just taking it at face value and keep perpetuating suffering. Because the truth of the matter is, all day long, what are we actually getting when we think we're getting what we want? Yeah.
More suffering.
In what way? That's a good, yeah,
I guess.
It's a question.
more suffering. You're getting a temporary pause from suffering, a little break from suffering. How long does it last? Sometimes seconds, sometimes maybe an hour. It's very temporary.
That's the suffering of change.
Yep. Yeah. The Buddha called what we call pleasure the suffering of change. Yeah, Mason.
In the mainstream, there's a conflation of living a meaningful life versus living a pleasurable life. A lot of people think that because I do all these fun activities or whatever, I have this full, meaningful life. And I just wanted to ask about the difference between, because I don't
Right.
think that's true. I don't think those things make your life meaningful.
And I think that's what one of the things about listening to the teachings and then investigating is all about. Really looking at, in addition to that temporary pleasure you receive from getting something you want, something that you like, enjoying what you like. It's fine to enjoy what you like. There's nothing wrong with that. But thinking that is happiness, what comes with it? What comes with that experience?
The loss of that experience.
The loss of that experience built in. You're gonna lose it. And then what comes?
Another desire.
Right. It's like you're feeding craving nonstop. So we have to look at these things. So like say we were trying to change one of these habits, we need to look at what are all its dimensions? You know, and am I kidding myself about its value? Like for you, it would be, you know, having a string of pleasurable activities through the day. You know, you might want to look at what price do you pay for that, if that's how you find happiness.
But what's happening is I am kind of asking myself that. And so then I don't want to, do that. I'm not as drawn to do
Okay.
certain things now. Not only because, but I haven't filled it in something else. It's like, so then.
Okay, so then what you need to do is really think about, when are you happy? When you feel good. We're not talking about chocolate cake or cheesecake or ice cream or a good movie or a good book or a good relationship. What actually, when you look back, and particularly notice when you feel good at the end of the day, and ask yourself, what's that from?
Making others happy.
Yeah, it could be that. I mean, like this whole summer, I did nothing but caretake. It just how it worked out, you know. And I kept looking at it and going, this isn't bad. It was just not a bad summer. I mean, I didn't like the fact that my stepmom got sick and died. That was terrible. I didn't like the fact that my best friend from the Dharma was in a hospital having hallucinations. That was terrible. I didn't like the fact that my brother had open heart surgery. That was terrible. But I was useful the whole summer. And that felt good. I was so glad to have shown up. Like I show up to North Carolina, my friend's in the hospital. How did I find out? Because I went to his house and there was no, it was like, oh, okay, he can't go anywhere. He can't drive. And where is he? But I just got back Friday from helping with my brother. He had open heart surgery 2 weeks ago. But like it was not a bad summer. It had a lot of sadness in terms of loss, but that's not the same as suffering. I mean, it is a type of suffering, but it's like, what should we expect? This is samsara. Everything ends. I can't expect to come visit my friend and find him the same way as he was the last time. It's not realistic. I can't expect my siblings not to get old and die. That's not realistic. What I can do is be helpful when people are going through a tough time. I can remind myself, I'm not the one having open heart surgery. I'm not the one having hallucinations. I'm not the one dying. I mean, obviously dying. But if I had let myself just think about what I was losing, how tired I was or how boring it was to do this or that. I played a million games of cards. And and when somebody's hallucinating, not very coherent, you have to let them win because they get discouraged. So, but that was my challenge. Was, how can I make sure that he can't tell? Anyway, but the point is that it's quite interesting when we really look at what satisfies us. The answer may not be what you think. And that's really important to check up so that we can make good choices about how we get our pleasures, whether it's friendship, you know, being there for someone else, providing conditions for other people to enjoy something that you think they'll enjoy. You know, I mean, there are all sorts of ways to be of purpose. Volunteering, you know, there are lots of ways. But we have to be observant. So this is the point about being mindful all day long about what's going on in your mind. Is you want to notice, oh, this doesn't feel so good. I'm pretty comfortable with this. I'm not at all comfortable with this. Da, da, da. So that you have data to go through to make some conclusions about your experience. You know, as the teachings say, the actual path to happiness is, first of all, seeing reality as it is and cherishing others, not yourself. Self-cherishing is just a recipe for suffering.
Yeah.
You know, and most of us, when we look, can see that clearly. You know? Yep.
I find I find it challenging to be able to distinguish between self-cherishing, pride, and right view about myself. In other words, I don't want to believe it's still self-cherishing and pride, but you know,
Yeah. Why don't you want to believe that?
I'd like to think I'm moving a little bit in the right direction.
Yes. And so this is also important. The more time you spend noticing what's going on in my mind right now, the more times you'll also notice when you're making progress. We don't just have to look for, oops, there I go again, making myself suffer. You know, we also want to catch those moments where, oh, look at that. You know, I just put someone else's needs first. I just didn't worry about myself in this situation and it was nicer. You know, whatever. You know, we really need to check both. So that's the key. Okay, so we talked about setting an intention before an activity. So if your intention is to face what is difficult, say, then you have to come up with reasons why you want to do that. That, you know, fit you. You know, how can you turn this so-called unpleasant experience or difficult experience into something that's positive for you? So what can we do with that? Like, do you ever look at your experiences and realize how much you learned from something difficult?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, don't forget. That's important. That's important information. Also, how can you avoid difficult things?
I don't think you can.
I seem to happen a lot. Geshe Geller calls it complications. He doesn't want to call it suffering because people just think, oh, you're always talking about suffering and suffering. Just life is complicated and things are always going wrong. Or you have to do things that's like, really, really, you're going to make me do that. You really have to, you know, fill out this 3-page form every time. I mean, I saw so many doctors this summer and I'm just going, are you kidding me? I still can't pronounce all my medications, but hey, you know. But anyway, we need to really see what we're missing by not doing things that we find challenging. You know,
And there's a negativity in living in resistance, postponing it, avoiding it, like that's agitation of, it's just some, dark cloud.
exactly. When we're resisting something, avoiding something, that's a lot of energy involved in that. We have to work hard at it. You know, it's like, because we keep having to rationalize, we keep having to come up with other things to do, you know, and we keep putting off something that perhaps we need to do. You know, I didn't go to the dentist for 7 years when I was in my 20s. That was a mistake. So we have to face the music, so to speak, you know? I mean, it's like as if that anybody's life is without difficult situations. And what is one thing managing a difficult situation absolutely gives you? Well, let's all answer at once.
Oh, what was the question?
Listening is one of those key things.
Right.
No, I didn't hear
I'm
it.
teasing you.
You feel good when you
See
hit
the
the situation. When you
You
don't,
feel good.
when someone cuts you off and you don't get angry.
Yeah,
you
it
feel
feels
better than
good.
if You do get angry.
If you do something that you find difficult and realize, oh, I can handle this, that feels great.
Oh, yeah.
It gives you confidence. We need self-confidence in order to practice the Dharma.
It's
We-
also positive reinforcement.
Yes, it is.
Because you realize I felt good.
Yeah, and it's true. See, this is the thing. You know, it's like we think that avoiding something that's difficult is the easiest way out, when actually you're dragging the suffering out. You know, doesn't mean tackling it is fun. It's hard to face things that are difficult, you know,
But the outcome is much better.
and the outcome's much better, and it's done.
Yeah.
Done and over with.
And we talked about the learning. Once you've done it, you get to learn, you get to do it again, you learn.
Yeah, it gets easier and easier. What do they say in the teachings? Nothing is difficult with familiarity. You know, sometimes I wonder how like big CEOs of companies, you know, how do they handle all the stuff and all the decisions they have to make? God, if I ever, you know, I hate making, it's like I'm so over it. You know, I don't care. Don't ask me. I don't want to know, whatever, you know. And I think about these people who have to make decisions constantly because it's their job, basically. It's how they function in the world. You know, I get so impressed. But of course,
It doesn't mean they're making the right decision.
Of
They're
course
just
not.
making decisions, and some
Yeah.
of them are right and some of them are wrong.
and actually that's exactly the point. If the fear of always having to make the right decision,
You won't make anything, you won't do anything.
you won't get anywhere.
Right.
Well, that's it. The most successful people don't fear making decisions.
Mistakes,
They just,
because their value doesn't depend on it. They've learned that their value doesn't come in a chart of successes and failures. It comes in keeping going,
Right.
going forward, going to the next thing. I loved it. It was Google had a project called X, I think it was called X, but the whole thing was trying out outrageous ideas and figuring out why it won't work. You know, the Tibetan teachers, when they come over, and they in the Gaelic tradition, they do a lot of debating. That's how they learn. They debate each other, all the teachings. And when they come over here and they challenge us with a question or something, and we go, nothing comes to mind, and we're just given that blank stare, they'd be so surprised. And they go, I don't expect you to know it. That's why I'm here. You know, if you knew it, I wouldn't need to be here. You know, why are you so afraid of making a mistake? That's pride. Now, we're raised in a culture that's very competitive, and we think that you're supposed to know the answer even when you're learning. And that's kind of nuts. So we need to be observant. So, you know, so getting back to like this idea of practicing in daily life, like Debbie, give me an example of something you wish you wouldn't forget as soon as you walk out the door.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, well, just the impulse to put on some YouTube video driving home or something.
Listening to something positive instead of just, or not listening to something negative.
Yeah, maybe just trying to like drive and think about the class for a few
Right.
minutes.
Okay,
instead.
that's an excellent thing. So what do you do? What can you do to help yourself with that?
Yeah, watch the impulse to on my phone to just immediately go to YouTube and
So first you have to set an intention.
yeah.
I will not turn on something. I'm going to think about the teachings on my way home and drive mindfully. Don't meditate on the way home. Okay, so you have to set an intention. So might you need to remember that?
It could be looking at something that yeah, I felt like I didn't understand or I didn't like
But what do you need to remember that
Okay.
that's what you want to do?
oh, okay, yeah. I'm always disappointed when I put something on anyway.
That's something to really keep in mind, is that's a reason. You know, like, I know I'm disappointed when I get home and I don't remember the teachings because I was listening to something I really didn't need to be listening to. Okay. So that's can be part of your intention, is just sort of like, I know that doesn't make me happy. So this time I'm going to try to do something differently and think about the teachings, you know? And that's a great intention. Why do you want to think about the teachings? Because you really want to, you know, become a better person and be able to do things that really will lead to happiness for the benefit of others. You know, you just throw that in, you know, we want to practice that habit. Then you write a Post-it note and stick it on your steering wheel. Don't turn on whatever. You put a thing in your calendar at 8:30, the little reminder goes off and it says, not listening to the radio on the way home, or the podcast, or the phone, or whatever it is you do. We need these reminders until we've got the habit of at least thinking of doing that. And we don't have to feel bad that we forget. You don't have the habit of it. Of course you're going to forget. Habits come up because we're very, very familiar with them. So you're up against that habit. So you need to take steps that help you remember that. It is not childish to need notes. It is not childish to make reminders on your phone. This is tools that you can use to help you remember something that you want to remember. Which is why I can't set your intentions for you. You know, this is a personal process. This is things that you suspect might make you happier because you've noticed that you're disappointed, or it doesn't, you know, the end of the day is kind of blah, you know, because you haven't done anything that you think is worthwhile. You know? So it really, I just can't emphasize this enough, that setting intentions, motivating yourself to do something and having reasons why. You know, you can put in the beginning of it, because I know that I will feel better if I actually think about the teachings on my way home, and I will not be disappointed when I get home. I am going to try not to turn on anything that will distract me from thinking about the teachings on my way home for the benefit of myself and others. You know, it's just a matter of, and then if you get home and you realize you spent 5 minutes at least thinking about the teachings, you go, good job. You rejoice. Excellent. You know, and every time you succeed, you want to rejoice about it, because it's a process to change habits. It's not an event. It's not like you do it once and, oh, good, I'm good. No. The habits we have, Buddha would say, you know, all our delusions, all our disturbing emotions that arise, we've been practicing them since beginningless time. A long, long time. So of course they just pop up. We want to create new habits and do it with enough regularity that they then become what pops up. Or you just know, I'm not going to listen to that. This is not easy, but you're worth it. That's the other part, is I want to take care of my mind. My mind is worth it. I really want to be the kind of person that the Buddha represents. You know, I'd really like to be like that. And I'm not like that yet. So I have to practice. I need to keep practicing. I need to guard my speech. I need to guard my actions of body. I need to take care of my body so that I have the strength to do things, you know, all that stuff. There are many ways to phrase this stuff. And you don't have to overload yourself with a list of 87 things that you need to get done with your mind. You know, setting an intention is one. Remembering the intention is two. I mean, so even if all you get is, oh, I remember to remind myself about my intention, you can rejoice about that. Setting an intention, rejoice about that. I'm not kidding, folks. This is everything we rejoice over is reinforcing what we want to do. You know, educates merit. Rejoicing in virtuous things is giving us merit. Ripens as good stuff that then gives us problems and sorrow. As Lama Sopa Rinpoche like to remind us all the time, that everything we do with a positive mind leads to happiness. So that setting of an intention is huge. Yeah.
Yeah, I just came across something that was talking about good versus bad, that label. And I'm trying, I don't know if this is the right way of going about it, but I'm trying to change the habit of seeing things bad and then changing it to being good.
Okay.
So like, even if something I would say would be bad is happening, like, it's good that's happening.
And you can give yourself reasons for it. Oh, this is good that it's happening because I want to learn how to do this. You know, I want to learn to deal with not getting what I want.
And I found it has less effect on me too. Before it had a big effect.
You're taking the power away from it. Because what gives it power is our decision that that is something I do not want. So go away. I mean, that's what gives it all the power. If instead we think, oh, whatever comes up, I can handle it. Doesn't have any power to just throw you for a big loop, you know? It really is true. If you're just kind of ready for anything and just have the confidence that you can handle it. Might not be able to handle it like so-and-so, but that's not important. What's important is you have a positive motivation that you're trying to handle it. You're trying to be a benefit to someone else. If that's the difficulty, you know, all these things. We need to learn to couch our language around having a positive self-image, a confidence in what we can do, and a sense of humor about our habits that are not so helpful. It really helps to be able to kind of chuckle. Oh, there I go again. Like that's going to work. You know, it's like, you know, because we will.
I find myself chuckling a lot.
Yeah. I find practicing the Dharma is one of the most entertaining thing ever. You know, and yes, we get up against it and we just can't believe we're having trouble. You know, every now and then I'll you know, because, you know, I'm an anxious person. And so every now and then I'll get up against something and I just kind of lose it. I'm just like, oh my God, I can't figure this out, you know, like this. And then I just can't stand the fact that that's how I reacted. So I just then, you know, I just piling on the suffering. Okay, let's feel even worse. Yeah.
What do you have when things happen to you that are out of your control?
Everything's out of my control. Yeah.
Well, things that we absolutely do not expect. They just
Mhm.
show up and they really make us angry.
Yeah, what is that about? You're not getting what you want, are you? That's all it is. Nothing, when you really look at life, nothing should surprise us. Things break, things fall apart, everything, we lose everything, we get unexpected delights, you know, that we don't expect. I mean, there's nothing predictable about our existence. We keep trying to hold on to it as if it's predictable. We keep thinking, oh, this was a good day. Let's hope tomorrow's just like it. That's a way to make sure you suffer tomorrow. I mean, it really is. Our expectations that things shouldn't surprise, shouldn't come out of nowhere. Well, the truth is, we should never be surprised. Death can come at any time, at any time. Illness comes at any time. You don't have to be old. It just happens all the time. Things break. We find out terrible news about a loved one. It happens all the time. It's going to happen. All of these things, we don't need to be surprised. The feeling of not getting it right is going to happen. Feeling of sorrow is going to happen. The feeling being depressed, being lonely, all those things happen. There's no reason we have to be surprised. Surprised, what does surprise indicate? What are the various ways what that's telling us?
You have an expectation.
You have an expectation that this shouldn't happen. And guess to whom? This shouldn't happen to me.
So that kind of boils down to self-cherishing?
Oh, a little bit, yeah. Me.
My washing machine broke.
Yeah, sucks,
And I
doesn't
have
it?
to
My washing machine.
My dishwasher broke in January. The elevator broke just as soon as I had neck surgery.
It's,
It means you need more exercise.
Yeah, just because you're in a neck brace, you can't see the stairs. You're going, okay, how do I do this? We're just ridiculous. But the thought that, oh, I still wake up and have water coming out of a tap, not every day, not today, for example. They turn off the water today and tomorrow. But, it's this, but somebody told me that was going to happen. They had to plan it.
Oh, they sent out a notice.
Yeah, they sent out a notice, and then somebody said, hey, those are, high holy days. Change your plan. And so they did. I was hoping it would be on those high holy days because I wasn't back yet. So no self-cherishing there. But the point is, yes, if we're surprised, it means we had an expectation. If we're surprised and angry, it's because we don't like what arose. Now, we don't actually know if there's anything to be angry about. It may turn out to be a good thing. But that is where equanimity comes in. When we develop the ability to just react to whatever comes up with, I don't know whether it's good or bad. I just have to handle it. I'm just going to deal with this. You think about people who are really either, my brother's doctor, one of my brother's doctors, has 3 small children. Yeah. His thought, yeah, my life's not complicated. Here's this cardiologist who had 3 small children, who's, I mean, I didn't wake up in a war zone this morning. I didn't wake up in destitution. I'm not living on the streets. I can't even imagine what comes up for them in their daily lives.
and many of them are happy, huh?
Some of them are happy. A lot of poor people are happy, that's for sure. They're not getting, they don't have resources.
Indicate no wealth doesn't necessarily mean happiness. We know that.
Yeah, but we think it does. We live a whole country that is convinced that wealth is the source of happiness. Even having sufficiency isn't necessarily, it's like we exaggerate everything. We don't even know what sufficient means. So at the risk of repeating myself again, it really is about thinking about what is it you want to work on. Say, you want to work on not being so surprised. That you want to work on not wanting to avoid what is difficult. You want to work on not, taking opportunities of being able to integrate the Dharma by getting immediately distracted by doing something entertaining, that you just placate yourself with temporary delights all day long, whatever it is, it's like you have to identify it. Then you have to think about the reasons why you don't want to do it, because you want those reasons to remind you when the urge is getting really strong, going, yeah, I think that's going to make me happy, but it'll make me happy for 2 seconds. And then I'm probably will kick myself about spending the money or, the calories or whatever it is. So you want to reflect on these things to develop a good sense of why you want to change it. What's the advantage of changing it? What's the disadvantages of staying where you are? Obviously, if you have this urge to change something, it's a clue that you're not happy with it. So then you have to remind yourself of these things again and again and again and again. And then at the end of the day, that other bookend, you want to review your day. Well, how did I do with that today? That was my intention this morning, for the day. You want to be able to notice, it was pretty good. I did this, I did that. That was good. I remember during this time, well, and I really wasn't so good with this. You want to remember that. And then you want to, regret any mistakes you made, especially if they harmed others, but they harm yourself too, and then you want to resolve to try to do better next time. Not that you'll get it perfect. None of that. But you want to rejoice about every time you remembered, every time you set an intention, and then every time you followed through on that intention. It's really important that the last thing you do is rejoice. Questions? Sorry, I didn't ask.
I have a question.
Yes, please.
Actually, I just wanted to, if you don't mind repeating, you talked about the 3 lazinesses.
Oh, yes, I forgot all about that, didn't I?
So the first laziness was off, my connection was cutting in and out, so I really didn't get.
Okay, I'll just repeat it. So there are 3 types of laziness, and I only mentioned one of them. There's a laziness of discouragement where we tell ourselves we can't succeed, we can't do it, and so we end up not trying. And they just call that a type of laziness in the Dharma. Shows you the importance of not discouraging yourself and trying to develop some inner confidence, not confidence that depends on other people. Now, if you have good friends that you can check up with, do you think I can do? If it's like if you need to get other outside sources from people you trust to help build your confidence, do that. Eventually, you want to have that self-arisen confidence. Another type of laziness is attraction to samsaric activity. Oh. Those podcasts, those YouTubes, those movies, those murder mysteries, whatever it is, that waste time. It's okay to do it in bits. We need the power of relinquishment. We need the ability to set aside really effortful practice and rest from it. But we also need to recognize, well, no wonder I haven't changed anything. I saw every episode of blah, 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 and then every episode of blah, 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 and whatever, and on it goes, that we always spend time listening to the radio in the car. We always listen, we really want to recognize how much time we spend chasing temporary pleasures. And ask ourselves why. Is it really good enough? Is it really satisfying? Do you really think on your deathbed you're going to feel good about all the movies you watch, TV you watch, songs you know the words to? I don't know.
Dances you went to.
Dances you went to. Yeah, exactly. You know, or do you want to think about your friendships, your relationships, your ability to be kind, your ability to be generous, your ability to act in an ethical way, you know, all of those things that you value. Is that how you want to see yourself on your deathbed? Oh, I've done well. I did a good job changing things I tried to change, you know, some things not so good. Next life, I haven't given up, you know, but it's just, we want to have those reflections when we look at, you know, like at the end of the day, if like you're getting ready to go to sleep and you just spent your time just kind of vegging out, you know, you want to look, did I need that time to veg out? I mean, you might have, I don't know what kind of week you're having, you know, you want to look at it. And then if it's like, no, not really, I just couldn't think of anything better to do, or blah, 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 it's just my habit, da, 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 then you want to give yourself permission to change that habit, to find something more satisfying to do, even if it's just watching a different kind of TV. You know, you watch something on nature, or you watch something on the oceans. I don't know, that's still nature. Anyway, or you search YouTube for a Dharma talk. You know, it's just, you know, it's trying new things out and then finding out how you feel after you do that. And then making note of that. And then there's, of course, the laziness of procrastination. You know, we all know this one. You know, this is that, you know, we're attached to, you know, like when you finally graduate from all the different schools, you know, whatever, you know, all the different study programs, whatever you had to do, da, da, da. And it's like, I don't have to read a textbook again. Then you become a nun and then you go, oh, not true. But it's this, you know, it's this, like, I really think, and it's really a hard belief for me to overcome. I just know it's a lie. I really think goofing off is a source of happiness. You know, I love it if there's nothing on my calendar. You know, like yesterday morning, I was delirious, you know, it was pouring down rain. Well, in the summer in New Orleans, I always go, oh, I can just stay at home and read a book, because my mother always wanted me to go out, you know, go out, do something. And I was a reader, you know, so it was like, ooh, I get to stay in and read all day, you know. So there's nothing wrong with reading a book, but it's just this idea of, you know, that I get to just do whatever I want, you know, no self-cherishing in that. Yeah. So it is wrong. It's a lie. It's not true. There's a reason why the idle rich are bored. I mean, at least in the, you know, those British stories about the landed gentry. Okay. I'm just making that up. Does that help?
Yes.
Those
thank you.
explanations. You have any questions about them?
Mm,
Or you can think about it this week and we'll talk about it more next week.
No, I'm just going to procrastinate.
Oh, yeah. Okay. That sounds good. It sounds typical. Yeah. So,
Yeah, I have a PhD in it, but no, thank you so much for repeating and explaining.
yeah, no problem. That's what I'm here for. Okay. So now so we did the beginning, we set a motivation. Now we want to do what?
Dedication.
Dedication. Why do we want to do that?
Celebrate.
So we're rejoicing for one thing.
So that we apply what we've learned today.
Yeah. And that we, you know, we listened, we participated, whatever your motivation was in the beginning, you know, you probably fulfilled some of that. you know? So it's, you know, and then we want to, the whole idea of imagining everyone in the world around you and that you're doing this with them and doing, is a way of getting practice of becoming a Buddha, where you're trying to lead everybody out of samsara. So let's go to page 235, I think. So these first two verses are what Lama Zopa Rinpoche says are the minimum that you do. Always dedicated to becoming a Buddha, for the benefit of others. And you always remember bodhicitta, wishing that it will increase and not diminish. Due to the merits of these virtuous actions, may we quickly attain the state of Guru Buddhas and lead all living beings without exception into that enlightened state. May the supreme jewel bodhicitta that has not arisen arise and grow, and may that which has arisen not diminish but increase more and more. Oh, yes, thank you. Just as the brave Manjushri and Samantabhadra too realize things as they are, I too dedicate all these merits in the best way, that I may follow their perfect example. Now, if you have a prayer book, you might want to look through it, because there are all sorts of dedication verses, and you can write your own. You can just think, oh, I dedicate this to me being able to change my mind about blah, blah, blah. That I dedicate it to my, that I'll be able to, for the benefit of others. Like, one of the reasons we want to be better, kinder, generous people is because of others. Who cares if we're kind if there's no other person? It's just like, so let's go to
There's also, if you don't have the book, there are a lot of the dedication prayers around the FPMT.
oh, absolutely, they're all over the place. They're on the Lama Yeshe Wisdom Archive. You can find dedication prayers all over the place, and some of them, like one I do every day is and of course I'm not going to be able to remember it because I'm in front of an audience. So, but the that meeting a teacher has changed my life, kind of thing. Meeting the Buddha, Dharma, may every sentient being be guided by a spiritual guide, just as I was, and so I dedicated to that. I dedicate, to the things that have given me, it's just like amazing that like I've met teachers. Oh my goodness. So it's just, so wanting that for others, is a way to practice this idea of dedication, that, you don't want it just for yourself. You want everybody to have this experience. I want everybody to have the experience of how golden these teachings are. It doesn't have to be Buddhism, but because Dharma just means the truth that leads you out of suffering. That's it. It doesn't have, it doesn't say, Buddhist teachings. I mean, it's what leads us out of suffering. So anyway, just go to the long life prayers. There's holiness. In the land encircled by snow mountains, you are the source of all happiness and good. All powerful Tenrezi, Tenzin Gyatso, please remain until samsara ends. And then the swift return. Peerless teacher, assembly of the children of the victorious ones, Shravakas and Pratyeka Buddhas, victorious Losam father and sons, along with the lineage masters, objects of refuge of infinite lands. Please bestow the virtue and goodness of accomplishing this prayer here and now, holding and spreading the Muni's precious and complete teachings through explanation and practice. You wore the armor of patience that is never discouraged. Incomparable Venerable Guru, to you I make request. While striving single-pointedly for the sake of the victorious one's teachings, the sole gateway through which all benefit and happiness emerge, and from other living beings, suddenly departed to peace, what a great loss. Nevertheless, through the undeceiving truth of the blessings of the ocean of the three jewels, and the great waves of bodhicitta of the children of the victorious ones, may the smile of a reincarnation swiftly beam in glory for fortunate disciples. Thank you. So don't forget, if something comes up for you during the week, if you think of, oh, I wish you would talk about this, please email me. I think most of you have my email address, Tendron108@yahoo.com. And that's spelled Tendron 108@yahoo.com. So thank you very much for coming.
Oh, thank you. It was
Thank
great.
you, Venerable Tendron.
Thank you, Venerable.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
So y'all set some intentions. You don't even have to leave the room to set your intention, so you can remember when you get to your car. So have a meaningful week.
Thank you.
I'll be teaching Thursday if you want to join. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you, Venerable Tendron. Good night.
Thank
Good night.
Good night.
Bye.
I don't know how to leave.
Thank you very much. Good evening.
Good night. Drive safe. All right.
I do have a question, but
Thanks, Nathan.
it was kind of unrelated.
You want to turn this up, please?
Yeah. It's kind of unrelated, so I didn't want to bring it up during